Hey everyone, hi out there. Greetings, 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 animal allies. What's up? What's good? What's new? What's going on and what's shaken? Welcome to another Animal Activism Collective activist chat and call to action live stream. So tonight we are talking with the Stop SeaQuest group in New Jersey, who have been increasing their efforts to pressure authorities to shut down SeaQuest Aquarium in Woodbridge, New Jersey, and nationwide. But before we start our program, my name is Michelle Granberg. I'm a mentor and team member with Animal Activism Collective. For those of you who are new to AAC, AAC is a multinational program created to encourage activists to reach their full potential and equip them with the tools, community, and resources they need to boldly participate in our global animal liberation movement. Founded in 2020, AAC offers a free 3-month mentorship program which pairs experienced activists with aspiring activists. You can apply today to become a mentor or mentee through our website. Plus, we are so much more than a mentorship program. We offer free educational live streams like this one and online trainings. We have a podcast called the Animal Liberation Hour, and we host large scale in-person collaborative activism events around the country. Probably what we're best known for. We are basically a support system and a resource designed to empower grassroots activism. So now in a moment, I'm going to bring on the dedicated activists who have taken leaps and bounds of actions toward shutting down SeaQuest. For many years, animal welfare and endangerment concerns have been piling up against SeaQuest. Nationwide, SeaQuest aquariums have an ever-growing list of negative incidents, including over 100 animal deaths, numerous reports of animal neglect, citations and fines from state and local agencies, injuries to the public. And so we'll cover all that and more. We have a lot to talk about. SeaQuest has recently filed for bankruptcy, and the pressure is starting to make a difference, but we need activists to use their voices for the animals. So stay tuned for calls to action that you can take. And there will be time for Q&A, but please hold your questions for now, and then we'll have you drop them in the comments, and we'll certainly do our best to answer your questions. So we have a lot to go over and a lot to talk about. For those of you who are familiar, we're going to update you. For those of you who are unfamiliar, you're going to hear about SeaQuest now. So I'm going to start with Nicole. Hey, Nicole.
Hey,
I should say I have Ryan, Nicole, and Jessica and Ryan with me tonight. Hi, guys. Thank you for being
hello.
here so very much. And
Thank you for having us. Thank
let's
you.
start to talk about SeaQuest and what's going on activist wise. Nicole, can you give a little background about SeaQuest? When did it open and how protesting got started, when, and what that has looked like, where SeaQuest is located, the different locations. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So I am in New Jersey. So Woodbridge, New Jersey opened up in December of 2019. Protests regarding the opening of our location started even before it opened. So we're talking almost 5 years now, in 6 years, almost 6 years in now, of protests specifically against the Woodbridge, New Jersey location, but these protests have gone on at all the locations. Currently, there are 5 SeaQuests open across the country. Like I said, Woodbridge, New Jersey, Folsom, California, Las Vegas, Utah, and Roseville, Minnesota are the locations that are currently open.
Okay, so, and what about the ones that have already shut down? Did you mention those?
Yeah, so they shut down for various reasons. Obviously, the most prominent reason were citations, animal neglect, public being hurt at their locations. There's one was supposed to open in Long Island that never opened. That was fought against, and that one never even opened its doors. But for the most part, they have closed down because of many, many um, instances of animal neglect and abuse, and also public safety issues.
Nah, got it. Yeah, so let's go to Jessica, if that's okay. Jessica, would you talk a little bit more about that, the animal report, the reports of animal neglect and deaths, and who's responsible for that?
The most recent report that I had seen, I didn't even realize myself that there were 3,500 complaints made over the last couple of years. And as you had mentioned, the animals, the 100 animals that have died just at SeaQuest Woodbridge alone since their opening. Um, each SeaQuest has a sloth that they name Flash at all the locations so that they can swap them in and, within, if they have to swap the animals out, they can say, oh, this is Flash. Two of them died. I believe it was two, right, Nicole? Two died at SeaQuest. The original Flash died, and then they brought in another one that was actually, she died from starvation.
Mhm.
Um, I have a list of some of the animals that were deceased. There were two dead Asian water monitors that were improperly housed, and they ended up being euthanized because they fought, so they were euthanized due to their injuries. There was a Euromastic who was also improperly housed and in too small of an enclosure. All of the turtles at SeaQuest Woodbridge were euthanized due to disease that they had gotten. They were all brought in with shell rot, so they were euthanized. As I said, the two sloths. And there was a panther chameleon, which um, at the time of the death, when they did the necropsy, also was starved to death. They weren't buying the right foods for the animals that are there. Um, it's just, and I've been in there myself, so I've seen how they withhold the food from the animals so that they are forced to engage with the public for these little bits of treats. Um, the parakeets have never had food when I've been there because they want the parakeets to interact with the humans when they come in. So it's just horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It certainly is. Ryan, do you want to talk a little bit more about the animals that are inside SeaQuest currently? Who's in there? What it looks like? I know you have seen it from the inside. What are the conditions like, and what are the animals experiencing from their point of view?
Yeah, certainly. So, starting back in December, we started going in and documenting whatever we possibly could, taking pictures, taking videos, just keeping an eye on the animals, and really, it's very devastating. I mean, some of the things that we saw there were, for example, the lobsters have their claws permanently taped shut. Many of the animals live in solitary confinement, and for example, we're certainly focused on all of the animals, and the goal is to shut them down and release everybody to the appropriate rescues and sanctuaries. But being a farmed animal sanctuary, the farmed animals, where my knowledge is they are who I've been paying the most attention to. So I bring that up because, for example, there's a pig in there who our sanctuary, Uncle Neil's home, have committed to, and we talk about online a lot, that we would like to give Georgia home, when, I'm going to say when, not if, when the animals get released. And George, pigs are, they thrive on companionship. They need friends. And George, for example, is a pig who lives alone. All of the animals, they don't get proper sunlight. They don't get fresh air. The lights are artificial lights. It is just not the the natural living environment for any of these animals. When we were there in, I want to say it was maybe December, we saw the otters, and the otters were clawing at the glass to try to get out. Goats were housed with chickens, which is extremely dangerous for all of the animals involved, but especially the chickens. A goat could kill a chicken. Since then, I will say, because I went back actually to one, we haven't gotten here yet, and I'm sure we will, so I don't want to jump ahead. But when we talk about the Fish and Wildlife serving them, I went back there after we got that information just to see who was still there. And they had moved the goats away from the chickens and they've made adjustments based on what we've all been posting online. So we know that they're paying attention to us. But in conclusion, yeah, these are just horribly negligent, unnatural, and torturous living environments for all of these animals, especially the ones who thrive in with companionship. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, just to backtrack to talk about like aquariums and zoos in general.
Mhm.
We could talk forever just about that. And even if they're so quote unquote treated well, confinement itself is so
Mhm.
cruel and exploitative, and animals are not entertainment. I'm preaching a little bit to the choir here, of course, but animals are not entertainment, and the cruelness inherent of being in captivity alone is often overlooked or not talked about enough. Um, and that captivity for wild animals especially is, they're not in their natural habitats. They don't have all the physical, emotional, and social needs met. They're not free to roam or interact with other animals, all the things that are essential for thriving. And so, what do we see? Like Ryan, I'm sure you saw there, and Nicole and Jessica, is the zoochosis, right? The animals or often get to that point where they're pacing from stress and boredom and frustration, and they're engaging in self-harming behaviors sometimes and self-mutilation.
Mm.
It's just for any of us, can any of us imagine, even for a moment, switching places with them,
Yeah.
or swimming in a bathtub for your entire life? That's what it would be like. Or just being trapped within the same four walls.
Mm.
None of us certainly could imagine that.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
anything you want to add to that, Ryan?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And about like living in a bathtub, especially. The last time I was there, I took a video of a jellyfish. Just I stood there for 2 minutes with my camera, taking a video of this jellyfish that was just going in circles and circles and circles for 2 minutes. And um, that is what that jellyfish does 24/7. Right now, they are swimming in circles in a tank that is like this big, literally, and it's devastating. It's devastating. It's the reason we're fighting.
Absolutely. That's where we're going to keep on fighting. So,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. So, Nicole, can you talk a little bit about, like, what is the public being fed about SeaQuest? Like, what is the public perception? Obviously, it's marketing. I mean, SeaQuest is still trying to market that they're family friendly, that they're a wonderful place, that they treat the animals well, and we certainly know differently. So, can you talk a little bit more about the business of SeaQuest, business side of SeaQuest, and the public perception?
Absolutely. So SeaQuest came about because the former CEO, who did step down in August, Vince Cavino, had taken his children to an aquarium, and the children were disappointed that they couldn't touch everything. And he said, you know what? I think people will like to be able to go someplace and touch everything. So that's how they marketed themselves, as an exhibit where you would be able to go in and have these interactions with animals, aquatic animals, mammals. So all the animals that we see there, that you would be able to go in there and feed an otter and walk in and hold an iguana or pet an iguana. And so what we have seen from that is SeaQuest was not prepared, or has not been prepared, or even tried to be prepared to take care of these animals correctly. It's all about the money. It's all about the profit. They're not going to learn the complex husbandry of iguanas or other reptiles. They're not going to learn the steps that it takes and what type of vitamins they need and light, how much light. In their mind, I truly feel that they're replaceable. We talked about Flash. Talking about a sloth. Sloths over there are all named Flash, like Jess said, because they're replaceable. One Flash dies, we get another Flash. Vegas, they had a Flash die in 2022, and then another one in April of 2021, and then another one in July of 2024, just at the Las Vegas location. So their business model is profit over everything else.
Mm.
They want people to come in. They want to make it look like it's this wonderful place to bring your children where they can interact with animals and learn about animals. But it's a horror show for the animals there. And so I think public perception is, I would say, mostly negative. You can go any day on Yelp or Google reviews or TripAdvisor, and you're going to get people that say, this was the best thing I ever did. My kids had the time of their life. But then you get other people, and I'd say it's the majority of people that are horrified that they even took their kids there and what they've seen. I had a 3-hour conversation back and forth with someone last week, and she felt so awful about bringing her children there and what she had exposed them to. And she was so afraid they were going to get bit by the iguanas because they were allowed in to the iguana area with no one in there, no supervision.
Mm.
And she was so sad, and she was asking what she could do and how she could help us out. So I think public perception, their social media is going to show a very sanitized version of what's happening, and everyone's happy and everyone's having a great time there, and we're holding birds and look at us and look how cute the otters are and we're feeding them. But when people really dive in and start reading or even go for themselves, they see that that social media, all those images are just lies.
Mm. Yeah, that is so true that unless it's pointed out very often, it is so normalized. Zoos and aquariums are just so normalized, and animals seen as commodities and, there for our use, very, what do they call that? Anthropocentric, the fancy word for everything revolves around humans. And they're all here for humans in that way. And I think for those of us here and many of the compassionate folks that we hang with, seeing it through the animal's eyes, it's obviously completely and utterly different. So Jessica, you think we could talk a little bit more about um, what actions? I know that you go to the town council meeting, so maybe
Mhm.
catch us up to what a town council meeting is and other actions and the protests. Talk about what we're doing to be there twice a month or so to actually be in out there in full force protesting, what that looks like so folks get an idea and what
Yeah.
actions have been taken that are working or not working.
We are out there every other Saturday, and we are out there from 1 to 3. And it varies how many people come. We do have signs. We have um, uh, whistles. We have banners, and we have costumes. We implemented a couple of costumes of a shark and a pig to represent George, and a lobster with its claws banded, just to try and draw attention from people who are driving by. And in addition, we go to the town council meetings, which we've been pretty consistent with going to just about. We may have missed 1 or 2 along the way. Um, but we are there for the most part consistently. And each person that attends, if you choose that to speak, you're allowed 5 minutes. So it was a learning thing for me because I've never spoken publicly before. But I feel it's just so important to speak up for them that whatever I'm nervous or afraid of doing, now I'm comfortable with it. It's frustrating because we've been told for months now that they have nothing to do with SeaQuest. They don't have any control over it. They had said at one point that they were only responsible for the permit for the human food that is offered at SeaQuest, such as vending machines, which I honestly don't ever remember even seeing any in there. But That's not what I was looking for when I go in there. But it turns out that they ultimately are the ones who signed off on the Woodbridge Health Department signed off on the permit for the farmed animals. So, and they claim to have been completely unaware of that until I went to a town council meeting with a copy of the permit. It was the one that expired in December. December 31st was the expiration. And I was at the town council meeting prior to that, to which they said, I had asked them to not sign the next permit. And they said that they had believed that they already did. And their process for signing permits is just to sign any permits that come across their desks. So there is a town council meeting this Tuesday coming up, and that's at 5:45 p.m. I'm hoping that we get a good amount of people to come. I don't think that 2 or 3 people they can tolerate kind of listening to, but if we can get more people there to speak for 5 minutes, and we have people who are willing to help write what you might need to say, or even come and hold signs, just to make some more noise with the town council, because ultimately I believe that they have the right to revoke that permit. They signed it, they can revoke it. They say that they can't just shut down SeaQuest, and I understand that part of it, but they can revoke that permit and get the process started to release the animals to the sanctuaries that are waiting for them.
So that's a little bit of a call to action, right? What else do people need to know, Jessica, about how to, if they do want to, if they are inspired to come to the next town council meeting, where would they check for that? Or I know we're going to put the link for the Stop SeaQuest group here in the comment, so a lot of the information is there.
That's probably the best place to go, is to the Stop SeaQuest Woodbridge Facebook or Instagram pages, and the information is there. It'll give you the dates and times for the protests and the town council meetings.
Thank you. So
You're
Ryan, do you
welcome.
want to talk any more about the role of sanctuaries? And maybe some folks don't know what sanctuaries are and why we say they are the safest place. They are the only place where animals get to live out their lives, right? Otherwise they would not. So you could talk a little bit about that and any experiences you want to share.
Sure. I can start with, what is a sanctuary, since you mentioned. So, just like you said, Michelle, a sanctuary is a safe haven. That's how I would describe it when I'm thinking about ours. It's a safe haven for animals to live out their natural lives, as we know the circumstances that they get rescued from, which are circumstances of abuse and neglect, the food system, especially when we think about farmed animal sanctuaries, where they only live a fraction of their lifespan. So in sanctuary, they have the opportunity to live, do as they please. It is their home first and foremost. They get medical care, basic care. They have all of their needs met, and they're loved, and they're safe, and they're protected. And I think those are really two of the most important things, is safety and protection, because everywhere else where they're being exploited, that is not safe, and they're not protected, much like SeaQuest. So that is how I would describe, a sanctuary or a rescue. And then really the role of sanctuaries and rescues in with this SeaQuest situation is we're on standby. So, I'm hoping to provide a home for George, when, not if, when. I'm still going with that, when he gets released. And to do exactly that, what I just said, is to be able to, I'll just speak to George specifically, but this will apply to all of the animals who we get released to the appropriate rescues and sanctuaries. We will be able to provide them with the care that they are not getting, the attention that they're not getting, the emotional, psychological, and physical support that they are not getting at SeaQuest, and really turn their lives around for the better. We touched on this earlier, but again, just speaking of George, and this applies to all of the animals, he is living in solitary confinement. He doesn't have a companion. He doesn't have fresh air, sunshine. The lights are artificial, and his life revolves around what humans want to do to him. He doesn't have a life for his own. He doesn't have agency, autonomy, and we are prepared to give that to him, and meet those needs. And that, I think I can speak for the rest of the rescues and sanctuaries who are on standby to take in the animals when they get released.
And so I'm sort of hearing in my mind people who are not as familiar with the sanctuary world may not even know this is an option, and they may be comparing it to petting zoos. So, do you ever get people being confused with the misconception about what a petting zoo is versus a sanctuary or a zoo or any of those that are more for profit versus being a nonprofit? But that's not the main distinction.
Yeah, certainly. I think I can, the one of the, I guess, an example that comes to mind when we're having visitors and volunteers and events and such at our sanctuary is one of the things that I always mention to people because we do have the opportunity to go into some of the pastures, where the animals enjoy human attention and connection is something that I always lead with is just please remember that this is their home. If they don't want to come up to you, don't chase them, don't approach them. Let the animal do as they please. And that is the most important thing, I think. Hi, buddy. If he wants to say hi. That's the most important thing, I think, because it is it's a 180 contrast to SeaQuest and petting zoos. When you go to SeaQuest and when you go to a petting zoo or an aquarium and establishments like that, the animal is living for the human experience. And that is the difference with rescues and sanctuaries. That's not our value system. First and foremost, it is the animal's home and they get to come and do as they please and we are there for them. So that's the difference. We teach a lot about agency and autonomy and the animal's specific needs.
Do you want to give your website just for real quick,
Sure. Yeah,
Ryan? Because I don't know if we even said we think we mentioned that you run Uncle Neil's,
I
which is
do.
in sort of South Jersey.
Yeah, yeah. I run Uncle Neil's Home. We are a farmed animal sanctuary in South Jersey, Bridgeton, New Jersey, and we're home to about 150 rescued farm animals. And we rescue animals from circumstances of abuse and neglect, the food system, and petting zoos and establishments like this. And on the
Yeah, I was
topic of
going to say we have you have some experience with this because we campaigned hard to shut down some zoos, and you have the animals as a result, and they are thriving with you.
Yeah, a few years ago, we worked to shut down Johnson Park Animal Haven, I can say which was a petting zoo in Middlesex County, New Jersey, along with Thompson Park and Merrill Park. And essentially, we campaigned for a few years, even though, much like the SeaQuest situation, activists had been campaigning against these zoos for like 70 years, like 70. And we revamped the campaign with local activists, and ultimately we were able to do much like we're doing with SeaQuest. We attended commissioners' meetings, we protested, we did social media action, and ultimately we were able to get the animals released to the appropriate rescues and sanctuaries. And I have Huxley the ram, and I have Ernie and Samwell, two pigs from Johnson Park, and we also took in a cow named Maggie, who was from Merrill Park, but Maggie passed away from cancer sadly last year. So we do, have experience with this, which definitely helps with the SeaQuest campaign. And I remember that there was a point with Johnson Park. Sorry, Petrie has me all itchy from his fur. Cat lovers out there. Um, I do remember that there was a point with Johnson Park and the zoos in Middlesex County where we just had that gut feeling that things were moving. And I think I feel free, Nicole and Jess, to jump in and whoever, but I feel like we're feeling this right now. Like the dominoes are falling, things are changing, and like I feel in my gut that we are going to do this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't wait for the day. And I hope it motivates people and I hope it inspires people to get involved because that's really what we need, especially like in the home stretch.
Yeah, numbers count, definitely. Numbers of people joining in definitely
Totally.
count, and we're definitely, feeling hopeful in that way. But we're not there. We're not there yet. So Nicole, do you want to talk about the bankruptcy? Did we talk about that yet? I don't think so. And then maybe Jazz, now Sequest has filed for bankruptcy and what that means for
Sure.
the campaign and for the future.
Yeah, I think we did a casual kind of skirting on the topic. So initially, just to be a data, Ryan, for the first filing of the bankruptcy,
I
was
think
that
it was December 2nd
Yeah, so that's when we
of this
started
past year.
hearing, yeah, that's when we started hearing about their filing for bankruptcy. So basically at that time, um, they talked about having just like $1 million in liabilities far beyond the $1 million in assets that they have. We know right here in Woodbridge, as of December time, they owed almost $400,000 in back rent just to that location. And from what I've seen, they owe back rent to every location that they're currently in. So the case was seen just a couple weeks ago, last week, a couple weeks ago, in front of the judge. They did have someone who wanted to buy SeaQuest for $80,000, not just the Woodbridge location, all of the locations for $80,000. Jeff Cox, who was the person who wanted to purchase SeaQuest, was already a shareholder in the company. Luckily, the bankruptcy judge did stop the sale. So at this point, we're kind of waiting. If I feel like Ryan, that we are heading in a good direction. The judge could have said right there, sure, I'm going to take your $80,000. We'll get rid of, you can keep running this business and some of the creditors can get their money back. But that's not what happened. It felt like the trustee was definitely on the side of having things shut down. We did have someone in the courtroom that was local to the area, that another animal activist that did go and sit in the courtroom. And the PETA lawyer was there as well. So at that point, that sale not going forward was a huge win for us. We're not there yet, but it's a huge win. So now it is in the hands of the trustee. We're waiting to see if they're going to take additional bidders. We're kind of just in an area of waiting, but we know they don't have money. So while that's a great thing that they don't have money, we know that they're struggling. We also know that they don't have money, and how are they taking care of the animals that they still have in their possession? So it's really a double-edged sword for us. We're happy that the bankruptcy happened and, we seem to be on the right track to closing down. But are these animals who are already not really being taken care of, what's happening to them now? If you don't have any assets, how are you feeding them? Where's the care? Do you have workers there? Do you have enough staff to take care of them? And so we definitely have a lot of concerns.
Mm. Jess, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, because it was SeaQuest themselves that they were pushing for this sale to Jeff Cox. And, it was $80,000 for 5 locations, but it's just mind-boggling that they came up with and how they came up with a number to sell every single thing inside of Woodbridge Mall, including every living, breathing animal for $16,000. How do you put that value on their lives? But they were the ones who said if this sale does not happen to him, the animals will be in jeopardy by mid-February. And this is mid-February. And there is a lot of concern for how they are going to care for these animals until the rest of this plays out. And that's why I'm hopeful that if the township can revoke the farmed animal permit, that maybe it'll allow those animals to be released. I don't know if it's going to happen. Like Ryan says, it's going to happen. I'm concerned about the animals that are still there, since it was SeaQuest themselves that said that they're not going to be able to provide the proper care for them, which they haven't been getting proper care anyway, as Nicole said. But if it diminishes much more than what it currently is, it's horrible in there now.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, is there anything you want to add to that? Or no?
No, it's just, yeah, it's a scary thing just thinking about that. Even when they do close, we are really at the mercy of people who are not making moral decisions for other living, breathing individuals, and will they care enough or do something just to spite us
Mm.
at the end? So it's a consideration that it needs to be said, and we're going to have to shift and figure that out soon. So it's a conversation that we're having.
Yeah, I mean, just to
Oh, yeah.
piggyback off of that, I mean, we're talking about a company who put a bunch of aquatic animals in the back of a truck in the middle of the winter and shipped them to Minnesota, and everything arrived dead and frozen. So, you know, what's happening to the animals right now, what's going to happen.
Right. And some of the animals that had starved was because at that time, and that was years ago, I'm not sure in my notes what year it was, but for animals to have starved because they refused to buy the proper diet for them to save money, and then they died from starvation. So it is a huge concern of what's going on inside there right now.
Yeah. And it's such a reflection of the larger way that animals are treated in the world, of course, and it reminds us and really puts a fine point on why the animals need voices and people to stand up on their behalf. And the animals inside SeaQuest could have been just overlooked were it not for you guys and the other few people who came before who decided to make some noise around this. And activism works, advocacy, works. And so, as we talk a little bit about that, Ryan, well, activism works better when groups align. Would you agree? When there's allies
Mhm.
among instead of groups that are all over in their own sort of silos.
Yeah.
So for this campaign, piggybacking, not that's not a good word, using a good format that has worked in the past. Who is Stop Sequest allied with? Who's helping? Who's joined together?
Yeah. So I would say that we have been working with, well, certainly Revolution Philadelphia, who all of us know, grassroots activist group in Philadelphia. They've been our partner in the campaign with Stop SeaQuest Woodbridge, which is posting, all of the content and information. We've also been working with groups across the country. So in the very beginning of the campaign, we had a meeting with the other Stop SeaQuest groups, like Minnesota, for example, and where the other locations still exist. And we all came together to figure out how we could come together nationally to spread awareness. And so there's Animal Rights Coalition, uh, and am I forgetting? And lots of people, share the content online. Um,
I think PETA is also sort of in their PETA way in the background helping, I believe.
yeah, PETA, that's a good way to put it. Yes, PETA is also working on it for sure.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
to drive the point, animal rights initiative, Nicole says yes. Um, there's a lot of really, really awesome people, awesome animal rights groups, and supporters of all of our pages who have been coming together to spread awareness and make noise for the animals ultimately.
Yeah. Well, because it's sort of like it's a pressure campaign, right, Ryan? So you've been doing a lot of the calls to action because you're so good with social media, and that's of course such a big tip for activists to be really good at that. And what is we've been doing comment storms and we've been doing some email storms and phone storms, but just tell people what that is anyway, what that looks like
Yeah,
and why it
certainly.
works.
Yeah, certainly. So, we've done, for example, email campaigns. So basically putting out a social media alert, a call to action where we tell everybody we're all going to come together and we're basically going to bombard who needs to be bombarded. So in one case, it was the USDA. In another case, it was, I'm forgetting who else we've contacted. Nicole or Jess, feel free to step in.
The bankruptcy judge
Yeah.
Yes.
in Idaho. And
New
I think,
Jersey Fish and Wildlife.
yes.
Literally the
I
one
did
that
it.
we just did the other day that I forgot.
Yes.
Um, yes, and so basically we will come together and determine who the targets are to let them know that we're not going anywhere. And you have thousands of people who are watching your moves and not disappearing, and we are not going to stop until you do the right thing. It's basically coming to them and saying like, do the right thing, we're not going anywhere, and you're going to have to deal with us, and we're going to continue to make the noise until you release the animals and do whatever the ask is. So that has been really, really instrumental in this campaign, and is a really important, strategy for all pressure campaigns.
Nice. So people are starting to ask some questions, which I'm going to pass on to you guys. But Jessica, anything you want to add to what Ryan and Nicole just said, just in case, is there anything else that we're missing about calls to action for folks who might be listening right now? And I know there are people who want to join this campaign, who want to help. What do you want to say to really rile people up and get them active?
There's a call to action for tomorrow. That's actually it's been for the greater part of this week, an email campaign to the Woodbridge Township Committee and to the mayor of Woodbridge. And tomorrow we'll be concentrating, I believe, more on phone calls, with just bombarding them and letting them know. And I did have a brief conversation with the president of the township committee today, and I did let him know that I would be there on Tuesday. Um, but yeah, if people need to email and call tonight, tomorrow, anytime, we need to really just bombard their office. And that information can be found on the Stop SeaQuest Woodbridge site.
And just anyone can do that, right? People don't have to worry about not being a resident or not being local. Of course, you need to be local sort of to show up for the town council meeting or the protest, although you're welcome to travel to be with us. But is that correct that people can still join in the online actions and phone actions no matter where they are, and it makes a difference?
Absolutely. Yes, yes, because they are aware that this is a national issue. It is, of course, Woodbridge, which is my hometown. Um, but it is 5 locations across the country, and they are well aware that there are people watching from everywhere of how this is unfolding.
And Nicole, in terms of the other locations of the other sequests in other states that you mentioned, how's the communication back and forth between Woodbridge and them and collabing? And what's the status there? What are they doing?
So some of the locations are still really doing protests. They do have their Facebook pages as well. So if anyone who is listening lives locally to any of these other locations that are still open, you can definitely reach out. I believe, and let me know if I'm wrong, Jess or Ryan, but I'm pretty sure they all have their own social media. I've seen most of them. I don't know if everyone's still very active. Ryan?
I believe they do. However, we have been blocked from all of them. So if I'm missing anyone, or if I'm incorrect, like that's probably why. But all the locations, right? The Sequest locations.
The Stop Sequest people. I've been blocked from all the Sequest locations too, but the Stop
Ah,
Sequest.
oh, I'm sorry. If I meant Sequest, I'm not 100% sure.
I know we talked to the people in Minnesota, so there is some action out there, probably a good amount. So if anyone is more local to the areas, please reach out to those areas to get involved. But a lot of things that we do as far as email campaigns and phone campaigns can be done. And we have gone through a few roadblocks. Like Ryan said, the bankruptcy judge, we had put out a whole call to action. And all of a sudden they're like, oh no, these need to be physical letters. You need to put them in the mail. But we all got ourselves together and we were able to see quite a few letters made it into the docket for that day. So despite roadblocks and despite where people live in the country, we are able to get ourselves together for the good of the animals.
Excellent. Great, good. I hope people are listening and wanting to get active. We have some questions, and this one's from Shamira. I think we may have answered this, but can you recruit volunteers or folks involved with animal rights groups locally, like New Jersey Animal Rights Alliance, America, and Animal Rights Activists of New Jersey? So have you guys sort of actively try to recruit more volunteers, or do you sort of trust that it kind of the the message gets spread out among the groups. We all tend to know each other.
Yeah, I think we've
Did that make
trusted
sense?
I think we've trusted the process up until now, and we've
Yeah.
had good word of mouth. Obviously, if any of those groups or any group or any single person wants to get involved with us, we welcome people with open arms and appreciate it very much.
So maybe we can touch again because Dawn's asking, she says the exotic license was revoked. Is that correct? It's, can you touch on that again, Jess? Like I think you said it's New Jersey Fish and Wildlife have said they're going to come and take all the exotics, which are also the wild animals.
They are currently not allowed, the animals are still there. They are not, SeaQuest is not allowed to be using them in any of the interactions. So they were served with, and they were served in person on January 31st, and they had 20 days from that date to appeal the license being revoked for the exotics. I don't know if they have filed an appeal. I know that the appeal process seemed to me that it would be that they'd have to put it into writing and it would be reviewed, and then a determination would be made if it was going to move if it was going to move further. It was my understanding that if they don't appeal in that 20-day time, that Fish and Wildlife can go in and remove the exotic animals.
Have they asked at all for any of the footage that you have? Yeah, and does anybody want to talk about that? Like we have a little bit of footage and some photographs and how important that can be, or we're hoping it will be, or why that plays a role, some footage.
Fish and Wildlife.
There's
Oh,
been
go ahead.
whistleblowers as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jess. Go ahead.
No. I was I've been in there 3 times to take pictures, and Ryan's been in there as well, and videos. And there was an instance with the otters in particular, again, with no staff being around, items are thrown into the tanks. One of the otters had gotten a hold of one of the tokens that they sell that you use to buy, or you put it into like a gumball machine to get food to feed to the animals. And someone had thrown a token into the tank with the otters, and the otter had it and was putting it in his mouth and swimming around. But we had to run around frantically to find an employee to get the otter out of there and then retrieve the token so that he didn't choke, he or she didn't choke. And that was mentioned in the report from Fish and Wildlife. So there was stuff in there from ex-employees, so it was a combination of whistleblowers and the ex-employees, and even just myself going in there and getting video and pictures.
Ryan, is there anything you'd like to add to that since you've been part of that?
Oops. No, I think Jess nailed it.
Yeah. So a comment in the comments here, our friend Peter Ortiz, thank you for fighting for these animals. So who ultimately decides who and where the animals get released to? I know we've talked about it, so who wants to answer that? Ryan,
I
do you want to talk about that?
Sure, but I don't necessarily feel Nicole or Jess, feel free to jump in if I'm incorrect here. I don't know if we know yet, and I don't think it's our decision. I think that the best thing that we can do, which we have been doing as we contact the right people, is provide them with the solution. So at this point, it's like you need to close down, the animals need to be released to the rescues and sanctuaries. And by the way, here's a list of people on standby. So we did the work for you, and
Right.
take the work out of it for them, so they kind of just have to like wipe their hands clean and say, okay, revoke the permit, and so on and so forth. So I don't think we're going to get to decide that. I don't know if it's the Cavinos. Well, one of them has stepped down, but I don't know if it's them. I don't know if it's the Woodbridge Board of Health. I don't think we know. We're just trying to make it rescues and sanctuaries as best as we possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been talking about that. And of course, sanctuaries and rescues have stepped up.
Yeah.
It's so easy for us in the sanctuary community, in the rescue community. Like that's not the hard part. That's not the hard part anyway, finding great sanctuaries who we know. So Jess or Nicole, do you want to add anything to that in terms of any other insights or anything we're missing about, the next steps that we're hoping for, and any other way that we can facilitate that? A lot of it is out of our hands, of course.
Mhm. I mean, I would just say that I think it would be up to each of the governing bodies who oversee the particular animals that would make that decision.
Hmm.
And so for the exotic and wildlife, that would be New Jersey Fish and Wildlife for us. And then, and that would be a case by case basis based on the overseeing governance of that particular type of animal. But I think Jessica could speak to the fact that we have helped some preparation in that
Mhm.
case, and we have provided information. Jess, you want to?
Yeah, at the last town council meeting, we said we did the work for you. We have X, Y, and Z done. So just work with us and hopefully, and it's going to be, is SeaQuest going to release them to sanctuaries? That's the push that we need to make. You
Yeah.
know, you don't want them to say, okay, with the bankruptcy that we're going to liquidate everything. And if they do, and that means sell everything off, does that include the animals? I'm hoping that you know we're going to get this push from the township that they'll finally be on our side and get the permit revoked, and then they'll kind of have to listen to us, hopefully, and turn the animals over to sanctuary.
So we're open for questions. We've gotten a few. We're definitely would love your questions there if you're listening. Go ahead and ask them now or any comments. David Sinclair says, everyone has been so thorough. I'm not sure of what questions to ask. So we're doing our job here. But and Jess, what's been sort of the tone, I guess, of the council meetings, the vibe, if you were to, I know they don't seem very open, they're very matter of fact, they don't seem to really care. Has that the same? Has that changed at all? Is that typical, I guess, for
It's
bureaucracy?
been typical. It's been typical, but um, I don't know if it has to do with this campaign that we currently have going with this blast of emails and the phone calls. That there seems to, hopefully, cross my fingers, be a little bit tip in the way that this is going now, because to have had a conversation today, even as brief as it was for me, where as before, with as many times as I've spoken in front of them, it's almost like, I don't know, it's are they really listening? Are they paying attention? There's really no dialogue, there's no feedback other than, oh, we have nothing to do with that. But now it seems like it might be turning a little bit. So it would be tremendous if people could hop onto this and for this last push um, tonight and tomorrow to really bombard the township and just say, the email is already written pretty much, but if you want to add to it and just stress that they should revoke this permit and that it's just, the place is just so horrible and cruel. It hurts my heart. It hurts my heart when I think about um what I see in there, because it's not right. It's not right in any way, shape, or form, and it should have never opened.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to say I've spoken at the town council meeting quite a few times. I'm also a resident of Woodbridge, so I've spoken there quite a few times. We do have a new council president. who has seemed, like Jess says, I don't know if it's the email campaign. I don't know what changed. He does seem more open to speaking to us. We had tried to get an in-person meeting. I can't even remember when it was. I don't even want to say a date, but somewhere in October and November, we had requested a face-to-face with them to go through some things. And basically, we were told that legal had said that wasn't a good idea to meet with us. Now, we're residents of the town trying to speak to our town council meeting members, and we were told that legal didn't think that was a good idea. So we are still not sure what that was about and what the reason behind that was, but now the new president does seem willing to speak to us. The other concern that we did have and we tried is that we put a proposed ordinance in front of them. Woodbridge is one of the towns in New Jersey who has passed an ordinance that you can no longer sell dogs and cats in the township. So we wanted to take that a step forward and ban live animal exhibits within the township. So we wrote up the ordinance. We talked about it at a meeting. We gave them a copy. And basically afterwards, they called it a correspondence rather than a proposed ordinance. They didn't even want to address it as a proposed ordinance. They basically said there's nothing to vote on because it doesn't exist. So I guess none of them wanted to back it or pick it up. And it was basically just even when SeaQuest closes down, like Ryan, we're keeping very positive with it, right? When SeaQuest closes down, we don't want something else coming in its place because that has happened in other areas. So we wanted the town council to pass an ordinance that would stop that from happening in our township, but they won't even acknowledge the fact that we proposed the ordinance.
Yeah, so again, this is, we're doing this live stream to really let the public know. And so please follow Stop SeaQuest Woodbridge on Facebook and Instagram, and maybe we could drop the link tree so you can find them again there. And all of this is making me think about Lolita. Do you guys remember Lolita at the Miami Aquarium, I
Yes,
believe? That was
yes.
probably last year or the year before.
Mhm.
And they either finally released her or they were getting ready to release her and she passed. So it
Mhm.
was so sad. It was just too little, too late. And we're really imploring the people in charge to not let that happen again and to be on the right side of this, and to really, really, really do the right thing. So let's see. Peter asked, do you know if any of the parents or kids who visited SeaQuest and who were horrified will be coming to Tuesday's meeting? Yeah, I mean, I guess have anybody who has patronized SeaQuest, the general public show up, or how can we get them to? I don't know. Anybody want to
We
take
did
it?
have somebody come
Mhm.
in September, maybe. She did.
Maxine.
Maxine, she did show up. She was a grandmother who was horrified by what she saw at her grandchild's birthday party. And so she did come to the town council meeting and speak. We are in touch with a couple people. And so I always hope, we always invite people to come. Because I think they know me and Jess for sure.
Yeah.
They love when we come, but
Mhm.
they love to hang out with us, the town council, but they might want to see some different people. So we really invite anyone to come, especially people that have had experiences there.
Absolutely.
Wow. Maybe this will reach some of them somehow, miraculously. So I think we may have answered this, but David is asking if SeaQuest does not choose to send the animals to sanctuary, what are their options? We're just guessing, I think you said, right? We're
Yeah.
hoping for the best,
Yeah.
that they'll
Yeah.
do the right
From what
thing.
I heard, and again, this none of us were in the courtroom at the time of the bankruptcy hearing. At this point, from what we heard, though, they're not allowed to transfer at this time any animals between
No,
different
they're not.
locations at
You're
this
right.
point. So that's been stopped right now. So they can't pass anything back and forth. There's no movement of animals right now.
Right.
Ryan,
Believe
did you want to add to that?
I
Good.
I I have no idea. My fear is that they do something like send them to auction or sell them or do something. Um, and that's what we're trying to prevent.
You don't think they'd euthanize them? That would be the worst as well.
No, I think they'll I their money,
They want money, yeah, they'd sell.
it would cost them money to euthanize them. I
Oh, I
think,
see.
I think that they will, knowing that they're the evil people that they are, I think they'll try to make money off of them. And that's just why we need to continue to, when this is good for everybody, to know when we do these call to actions, from here on out, the call to action is release the animals to rescues and sanctuaries. So every
Mhm.
time we talk to an official or send an email or make a phone call, it's shut down SeaQuest, release the animals to sanctuary and rescue. That's the answer. Because we know that, like I said, they're evil people and we don't know what they'll do. And they like money and they could try to sell them, get rid of them behind the scenes after hours. Like we just they're not safe until, even if the judge or whoever or the Board of Health comes in and says SeaQuest is closing, the animals aren't safe. We need to figure out, I hate to use the word own. That's not, we don't use that, but it's probably who, like the Covino's decision as quote owners of everyone inside SeaQuest, and they will have the opportunity to do what they want. So that's why we have to continue saying, release them to sanctuary, release them to rescue. Like that's the name of the game from here on out.
Right,
Absolutely.
because they're they really don't exist anymore with the bankruptcy. It's not like they can rebrand
Mhm.
or there is no rebuilding this
Yeah.
for them. There isn't. So it's either they're going to sell them, and if they liquidate, to try and pay off some of their creditors, or they're going to allow them to go to where they're going to be able to live the rest of their lives as sanctuaries.
I mean,
Yeah.
the
So
one thing that's happening, I think, for us in a positive way, the bankruptcy is positive in many ways because the judge does have a list of everything that they own, including every animal they own. And there's been a stop. When you're in a bankruptcy, you can't sell anything. Now, like Ryan said, could they do it at night? Sure. They haven't exactly showed that they have a lot of high morals, so they could do anything. But right now, a judge does have a list of every animal that they have on property, and there's a hold on it. There's no transfer of animals, there's no movement of animals, there's no selling of animals. The hope is that they're being held there, we get them shut down, and they go to sanctuary.
And that they're getting their basic needs
That they're getting their
met
basic needs
at
met,
the
which is
at
our
the
biggest
very
issue.
least. So folks out there, let's, keep hitting them with this consistent message, which is release the animals to sanctuary. If everybody puts that out there, if everybody says it over and over again, ad nauseum, that would be really, really great. So and we have a little bit of time. We can still take another question or two for folks who are watching us live. But Christina asks, you all have done such a great work on the part of these most deserving animals. When is the last time reputable people have seen the animals since they were removed from exhibition? Do you know how they appear now?
I
I
was,
do. Brian, you were in there most recently.
yeah, but who are we talking about?
The exotics, like when you went in, did you see the sloth and the otters?
I saw the otters. Yes.
Okay.
And what I can say is that it's kind of a nod back to when I mentioned that they're watching us, they're watching what we're doing, because the last time that I was inside there, the otters had absolutely nothing, like nothing. Cement floor, disgusting dirty water. And then when I was there, I want to say it was maybe like 2 Mondays ago. Um, they added like a tunnel and a ball to the otters. George had a lot more pine. Like I just went to
Right.
make sure everyone was all right. Like yeah, um, everyone, I don't, they're not fine, but they're fine. They're waiting for us to come get them. So,
Oh my
They
God.
know, I think that they made those little adjustments where they did because they know that we're watching them
yes. Yep, 100%.
and they're afraid that somebody's going to come in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They know that they're being watched.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all about the optics. It makes me laugh. It's funny, but not funny. That's all they could do was add a ball and some shavings. Oh, it's very sad. It's really very sad. So Peter Ortiz says, not a lawyer, but can the PETA lawyer file a brief on behalf of the animal's best interest in bankruptcy court? Anybody know?
No idea.
I do not know.
If they can, I would guess they probably have.
Yeah, they usually do step in if they think lawyers can do something and handle something, they usually don't hesitate to send in the animal lawyers.
Yeah, the PETA
Um,
lawyer was at the last bankruptcy hearing. What happened, law is not definitely my area of expertise, but I know the PETA lawyer was there.
okay. Can you run down the list again, like how many animals then do we know are still in there? And the species, we said lobsters, otters, there's birds,
Fish, lots of
George.
fish.
Lots of koi,
Mhm.
sharks, stingrays, otters, Bengal cats,
Mhm.
goats, rabbits, guinea pigs,
Chickens.
parakeets, a toucan, which interestingly, toucans are social birds and usually live in flocks. They have one. He or she lives all alone.
Fishy kisses fishes. We didn't even talk about the fishy kisses pedicures.
The illegal
Um,
pedicures.
yeah,
Hmm.
the fish, they do fishy, what they call fishy kisses, which are the fish pedicures. So you put your feet into this glass box or plexiglass box, and the fish eat off the dead skin of your feet, which is illegal in the state of New Jersey in a salon. But apparently, if you do it in a aquarium in the mall, it is legal.
It's a gray area they skated under.
Gray area. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so is that continuing as far as we know, or did they stop that again
It
just?
was it was when I was last there, which was what, 2.5 weeks ago, and they have 5 stations, and each one was full.
So all those fish are there as well. And they're starved. They're not fed, so they'll be hungry to eat the skin off the feet.
Oh my gosh.
That's what they survive on.
Okay.
And that's what we were told from an employee.
Yeah. Yeah, that came right from an employee.
Mhm.
So that, we're of course talking about, George and the otters and everybody else, but you're talking about the tiniest little fish too that are there and being used every day.
They are individuals, even if they don't have names. Is George the only animal in there who has a name besides Flash?
I have,
And
As far as I know, as
they
far
might
as
call them something. Yeah.
I heard the employee call one of the goats by name, but I
Mm,
don't remember it. Um, they possibly have names.
yeah, they are individuals and they definitely deserve that. So I think we're going to wrap up in a bit, but Christina says so they have no oversight on behalf of the animals, and that's frustrating. They claim to have some oversight, but there really isn't. Is that right?
do, do you mean like inside SeaQuest physically, like who watches over the animals, or
Well, that's a good point too. There isn't any of that.
there 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 is, so there are people who walk around. There are people who do different things. There are people who walk around and kind of like watch everyone. Last time I was at George's enclosure, there was an employee who was kind of just like standing there, just observing. There are people who are cleaning. There are people who are going inside the enclosures. For example, I think Jess mentioned earlier the all of the parakeets. There's like hundreds of parakeets that visitors go inside and interact with. And there are people designated to those areas to help facilitate the interaction between human and non. So that would be the oversight. Just people doing their jobs in there.
Gotcha.
Mm, Yeah, far and few between though, because one of the things that SeaQuest is supposed to be doing is to have an employee at each station where an animal can be fed. The iguanas, every single time I've been in there, nobody around. And they have, it's a two-finger touch policy that you are supposed to be only touching the animal's body using your two fingers. And people are able to grab at these animals. The starfish being poked at. Um, there is no one, they're walking through and they're looking, but they're not stationed to where they should be watching their entire shift. I've watched little kids put their fingers into the touch tank, touching the starfish, and then putting their hands in their mouths. And that's on the parents, but it's also on SeaQuest that there's no one there monitoring.
Oh, may I add one quick thing real fast?
Please.
For anyone, if anybody is interested in going into SeaQuest and taking photos, videos, looking around, just going in and experiencing it and whatnot, you do have to pay, which is the price that we have to pay to be able to try to shut them down. However, last time I was there, I was given 5 free passes. So if anybody wants to go in, please don't pay. Reach out to me, whether like Instagram DM through Uncle Neil's home or my personal page, which is Ryan the Vegan. Um, please reach out and I will mail you, or if you're in the area, I can bring you a pass so we can not give them any more money if you would like to go in. I have 5.
Excellent. And so they can reach you through your social media. Is that what you said? Yeah.
Yeah, if you have my number, text me or through Uncle Neil's home or email Ryan at uncleneilshome.org. But yeah, reach out to me. Most people here have my number, so be happy to give the passes to you.
Thank you very much. That's another good point about not paying to support. And we are imploring everyone again, please don't pay for animal exploitation. Take your family to a sanctuary, or to the park or on a hike. So many ways to see animals that does not exploit them. So we're going to wrap up in just a bit, but David Sinclair says, I plan to go to SeaQuest in Roseville tomorrow or Saturday to do a check on the animals. Excellent. Thank you, David, so much. So let's go to each of you and just to give you sort of a final chance. Any final words? Did we miss anything? Do you want to repeat the calls for action? And I would love to hear from each of you how you find hope in this and in general, and why this looks promising, and any other steps that activists can take, or any resources that are out there as well. Let's do Nicole and then Jess and then Ryan.
So for me, I really find hope in the other activists, especially with everyone in Stop the SeaQuest Woodbridge. We are such a tight group. We talk every single day, multiple times a day. And I think, it's a marathon. Knowing that you have to be out there every other week and, those animals are depending on you, it's hard. It's hard. And I think it's so important to have other activists that are there to support you. And we just really ask if anyone wants to get involved to reach out to us. We have so many ways that you can get involved, and everyone's got their own talents, and we would love to utilize all of them to shut places like this down.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Nicole. Jess?
it's perfectly said because the four of us, we do communicate constantly, and we're all so different, but each thing that we are good at, we lift each other up, and it's become, as I said, it's heartbreaking. I've been in there, and I've been where my eyes are tearing up, but I feel so good about working with these women that I am, and that Ryan had said to me, Jess, do you think that you can possibly, Can you help out with this? I I feel like I'm learning so much, and I feel like I don't know, it makes my heart feel good that I'm doing this with this great group of people. And if others come out and can experience what we do when we protest, and how we are as a group together, and to just be part of this fight uh to get these animals out of here. So it's while I said it's a heartbreaking thing, it's an empowering thing to 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 fight so hard, and my your brain is always going, what else can we do, what else can we do? Well, I don't know how to do that. Well, we have to learn how to do that, and we'll figure it out. And I've never been more privileged to know a group of people in my life. And that includes every single person who comes and protests with us, and gets out there. And I am so appreciative to every single person, everyone who writes an email, everyone who listens to me talk about this all the time, no matter where I am at work or anybody in the grocery store. Hey, this is, going on. So, yeah, we need help with this final push. The protest is this Saturday at Woodbridge Mall from 1 to 3. And stop SeaQuest Woodbridge for the information on this email and phone campaign.
Yeah, this Saturday, weather permitting. Hopefully I'll be out there doing my speak out.
Yes. And
Doing some chants.
you know how grateful I am to you when you're out there with your voice and your megaphone. I forever grateful.
My pleasure. Ryan, any final words, thoughts, ideas?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who supported the campaign. You are really making this possible for all of us to come together and help the animals. Please continue to share, posts from the Stop SeaQuest Woodbridge page and our call to actions. Just share as much as you can. Remember to tell the officials to release the animals to rescues and sanctuaries. Go vegan, and thank you for helping us. We're going to do it, and this is the final push. That's all I got.
Woohoo! All right, so hopefully we've got all the info right in here in the comments, and we'll in the show notes as well. But we can find one another, so folks, please do reach out to get involved, and please do get involved. So in closing, then I want to say thank you to all of you, and for the folks who weren't able to join us on your team tonight as well. For all that you're doing to shut down SeaQuest, these animals could have been easily overlooked or ignored. So on behalf of those animals trapped inside SeaQuest, please accept my gratitude and respect. And let's move onward with the momentum we have until every cage, enclosure, and tank is empty. So as we wrap up, for as little as $2 a month, please consider becoming a patron by finding AAC on Patreon. Your donations allow AAC to continue to provide free educational resources for activists, which ultimately saves more animals. If you're interested in becoming a mentor or mentee or want to get involved, please visit our website, and please hit subscribe here on our channel and give us a like. And I want to announce our upcoming collaborative convergence. This is an in-person activism event, a big one. It's the DC Summit March. It's the DC Summit in March, the month of March, for the 14th through the 16th, 3 days of animal rights activism, talks, and trainings in Washington, D.C. Join Animal Activism Collective, Coalition to Abolish the Fur Trade, and the Simple Heart for a collaborative animal rights experience in Washington, D.C. It's welcome to everyone to join us, and the link we'll put again in the comments and the show notes, and you can find the information on our Facebook and our website as well. So thank all of you for being here and the tireless work that you're doing for the animals. Everyone is needed, and every action counts. in order to achieve animal liberation. So until next time, stay strong, get active, and live vegan, everyone. AAC signing off.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
y'all.
Thanks for having us. Bye.
Bye.